So today I'm excited to have the opportunity to beta test some powder wafer material from No Days. I started one earlier and I didn't have my blade set quite deep enough so they didn't cut all the way through, but rather than waste that, I'm going to use an X-Acto to retrim. I'm using a Silhouette Cameo and I've got a couple designs set here. I've got a gecko and a cocopelli. I've loaded my mat. For this one, I've set my blade to 5 and my speed to 5. I started with the default vinyl setting because the material feels closest to a vinyl, but as you can see, it didn't quite cut all the way through. So I'm going to try a blade thickness of 5, and here we go. So we'll unload and see if this one peels back a little better this time. Definitely. So from here, I'm going to work on pulling the design out of here. Here I have my cut pieces that I've removed from the mat. As you can see, the gecko didn't quite cut all the way through in a couple spots. No big deal, I'll just trim that up with an X-Acto knife. And I've also got a few little pieces left from cutting around. I won't throw any of that away, just like fiber paper. I'll hang on to that because these I can also use with craft punches. Something else I'll be trying later on, but for today's experiment, I'm just going to be using these two designs. So now I have my piece of glass cut that I'm going to put the powder wafer on. Before I did this, I lined up the pieces that I'm going to be putting together for this plate eventually. I'll have some other colors connected here. Actually going to use a peacock opal on the vanilla. This is the Spectrum Vanilla glass. And I've liked the reactions I've seen with it so far. So I'm going to put the powder over this guy as soon as I put a piece of paper down, and then we'll check back in. Now I've applied my powder over the powder wafer, just covering the whole design. It doesn't say that I need to clean it up, it just says to make sure it's all covered. And to cover it about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. Little tip I learned, and I got to give props to Glass Endeavors in a class, was using a toothpick. You can see I have the marking there. Mark that at 1/8 of an inch, and that helps me. I can just stick that toothpick in as I'm going to see how thick the powder layer is. So according to the instructions, I'm going to just take this piece over, put it in the kiln, fire at full speed up to 300. Hold 15 minutes and then shut it down. So later when that's done and after a few errands, I am going to see what my powder wafer looks like. So back from running errands, and this is done. It's down under 150. In fact, it's down under 100 where I like my glass to be. Only took a whole 23 minutes for that process. You get to see when I see. So at first glance, it doesn't look like I've got anything different. But let's take it over to the table. This is my cleaned up design. All I did was shake the excess off, and then I did take a paintbrush and just kind of cleaned around the glass just to move any fine powder off. But in general, it looks pretty good. I'm excited to fire this up now with the wafer on here. I'm going to go ahead and do my gecko this evening yet too, because I'll be able to fit 2 plates in my larger kiln here this evening. Nice thing is all of this powder I can just scoop right up and pour back into the jar for later use.
This recommended firing schedule can change depending on how your kiln fires and the effects you want to achieve. However, the first 2 segments are important to allow a slow burnout of the powder wafer material and to reduce shrinking and distortion of your design. If you can vent your kiln outside, then it is recommended to vent during these 2 segments. If you cannot vent your kiln to the outside, then don't vent your kiln. Find out more about Jackie Doehling at fullmoonloon.com. Thanks for sharing your process and great videos, Jackie.